So we're continuing in 41 for the menucha of surname Dangar Sirmos Motifiori. All of this again. Everything we talked about until now was always Muktze Mechad Gufo. We said there are two different things. There's Muktze Mechad Gufo, which is the basic Muktze, right? The basic Muktze is Muktze Mechad Gufo. Then there's Kelim Shemachtan Reisul, Kelim that are Muktze Mechamat Aslan Kis. Those are all in the category of something that's a Kli. I could have something that is prepared for its use, but Davka, its use is what makes it Asr. To carry on Shabbos, to move around on Shabbos, to carry. There are distinctions, right? There are halachic differences. You're allowed to carry a Kli Shemachtan Reisul if you want to use it, or if you need it space, or whatever, right? But we're talking about the more basic one. Muktze mechamat gufo means that unto itself it's muktze. I mean, it was never prepared for human use and consumption.
Human use.
Human use, yes.
It's not something that is a machine.
Correct. A machine would be a kli shemachtar isul. It's a kli, but a kli that you can't use on Shabbos. So that's another issue. But we're talking about the more basic thing. Kli, muktze, the most basic muktze is something that's not a kli and not food, and I keep on trying to translate and explain what the word kli means in this context. And now, luckily, we're done with that. We're moving on to food. It's always fun to talk about food, but this raises an important question of what is the sugya of food. So you can say, all right, whatever is food was never part of the Muktze world, right? Because you have to eat on Shabbos. So if you have to eat on Shabbos, whatever is food was not part of the Muktze world, and if you have raw pasta, you can't eat that, so it's not food, right? So that's the easy part.
And the raw pasta would be Muktze.
The raw pasta would be Muktze. That's right. Just give a couple more examples, right? A raw chicken, right? A raw potato, right? And all those things are not food. Now, also stones aren't food, right?
Stone soup.
Right?
Stone soup.
Stone soup. Very good. Right? In other words, why am I saying that? To say that the Chorah, we shouldn't have so much to say about the sugya to begin with, right? In other words, whatever isn't food, whatever is food is food, whatever isn't food is not. It's all right. So we might have to define what about foods that are only eaten by certain cultures and by certain people. Okay. What about food that's eaten by certain animals? And what happens if it's only eaten by ostriches? Anyone have an ostrich, perchance? Ostriches eat a lot, like not a lot, but they're just not very undiscerning.
Sure. Give my glass.
You said before raw chicken, but maybe you might have that.
Oh, and then that'll make things a bit complicated too, because just because I have a dog, which I don't, but if I had a dog, I would. If I had a dog, I wouldn't give him my kosher chicken, right? Because it's too expensive. I wouldn't do that, right? Because right. So that's a question, right? What about if I can, but I won't, right? So does that make it muktze because I won't? Well, maybe that's the whole idea of muktze. But why? And does there need to be a dog in town? In other words, you might say, I don't have a dog, but my neighbors do. You can feed it to him. Right? All right, so we can ask all those questions. So, but everything we asked just now is a question of, all right, when you define food, food means something that could be consumed, okay? Can be consumed under what circumstances? Right? In other words, there could be things, if I have fruit that isn't quite ripe enough, so I wouldn't eat this banana. Make it inedible. All right. So here, this game. So we have a bit of a play of the objective and the subjective here, right? Is it objectively something that I will not get sick from, right? If I eat raw chicken, I think I'll get sick, right? If I eat an underripe banana, it won't taste very good. I'll be fine, I think. Right? Doctors, right? Nutritionally, I think it's fine.
Can't we say that the previously
Well, why? You don't get sick from it? Sorry?
It's like an almond. 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 It's not that. Not raw.
Really?
The raw ones, not when they still in the keep up.
Oh.
When they haven't been that dry, then you can eat them. It's
Before
just-
that, right? Before that,
Before
they have
that,
cyanide.
it's
Yes,
Yeah, when they're fresh.
that's what he said.
No,
But it's not raw.
Oh, it's yeah. Okay.
if you say food, that back one before, you said if something can be used after Shabbat. Maybe it's not.
Could be used after Shabbat. No.
No, it can be rectified after Shabbat.
Rectified, meaning it was edible. Sorry, not
No,
edible.
but it was usable
It was usable. Yes, that's the correct.
Usable.
Yes,
and shouldn't have broke down, but you can rectify it.
right.
So you got the food, you can cook it.
Yes, but I didn't.
You didn't, okay?
Meaning
But
it was never.
rectifying it. because
It's not rectifying it.
I see what you said.
Right. It's not rectifying. Right. It's that would be akin to a stone that I could now use as a doorstop, but I never did. So that doesn't happen. So also, so too, the raw chicken is just a raw chicken. There's nothing.
I'm wondering about something else. We're saying all these things from nature, like a raw chicken, maybe, or a potato.
Yeah.
or what about like a raw pasta? It's not from nature. It's definitely in the brown.
Right, but I didn't finish I didn't finish preparing it for human consumption yet.
Ah.
I didn't finish preparing it for human consumption
Yeah,
yet.
but it's maybe different to a raw potato. I mean, it's still not. I don't know. Like,
No, so the answer is, I mean, look at Davot Melacha, right? The first 11.
No, that wouldn't be enough to look at that, because if you have something that is 3/4 of the way cooked, you're not allowed to cook it on Shabbat, but it's kind of.
Oh, I see. But it's edible, right?
So it won't be muktze.
Okay, I hear. Beseda, you're right. So that's not a fair way. All I meant to say was that you can say that I went through many stages, but if I didn't get to Tochen yet, right? So I did 6 stages already, but
I guess I'm thinking about that.
it might still be Muktze, because what are you going to do with
Is it a Muktze or is that kli? Like that kind of distinction.
well, why?
Is it a kli? A cliche?
So that very good. So I'm going exactly to there. So here's the thing. Now, that's exactly where I'm going. That's what Hillel helped me appreciate properly. Yes. So we're talking about Muktze Mechad Gufo, meaning something that's not food and not a kli, right? Something that isn't really prepared for human use yet, right? So not prepared for human use. It could be something completely from nature. It could be
A raw potato.
a raw potato. It could be a raw chicken that went through many stages already, right? It was shechted. It was right. We did melicha. We did all those things. Just cookie yet, right? Or the pasta, as you say, it already went through a whole process, right? All those things, just they're inedible in their raw form, right? So still they've never reached that point that they've never gone through the full process of going from nature to being prepared for human consumption. That never happened, right? All right. What about things that I choose to set aside, like the dried fruit? So the almonds is different because you can't use them yet. They've never been useful, right? Right. So here that would be more akin to, hold on tight, Muktze Mechad Chason Kis, by its nature. In essence, it would be more akin to Muktze Mechad Chason Kis. What is Muktze Mechad Chason Kis? It means I have my butcher's knife. I do not let anyone play with my butcher's knife. It's for my butchery, right? It's for my, right? Because I'm not going to use it for anything else on Shabbat. I'm very makbid, right? It could be it could be a shchit knife. It could be a.
I'm just imagining my kids running around in a sex.
Yeah, exactly. What?
It's not a good example.
Oh, they do. Oh, they should. Okay, they shouldn't, but they do. No, but I'm saying exactly. You have specialized medical equipment, right? Specialized medical equipment could be Muktze Mechad Chason Kis, because you're not supposed to let your kids run around with it, doctor, right? Right? You're makbid that it won't be used for anything else except for that, except for those.
And you're worried about people touching it gets damaged.
What?
You're worried about people touching it gets damaged.
Right. Mimele.
I know.
For what?
Part of it. That by people touching it carelessly, it can get damaged. Is that
Right,
not-
and therefore, yes. And you make sure no one else, and you make sure you yourself. You're some put on yourself to not use it.
Right, that's
Stop.
what I'm saying.
But why? I'm
It's not only because I don't trust
I'm not
anyone
sure
else,
that
it's because I don't
I
trust
know
me.
why it's important to compare it to different kinds of muktzah, but I mean, it sounds very akin that the shivrei kelim or something like that, or like klishi parek, in the sense that it was ready for use. It was a fruit, right? And now it's temporarily unavailable for use, and at a certain point, it will once again become available for use.
Okay, so I'll tell you the difference. Like I hear you. The reason in my mind it seemed different is because there it fell apart against my will. Here was my choice.
I was having a hard time with it. Surely, like if we run out of food, we'll eat. I don't know how.
Right.
I don't know how much.
So that's important, and I don't know, I mean,
Like if you put grapes on your roof,
Yes.
if you're really hungry, or kids are, you would take. No, it feels different to Shivrei Kelim or to Chesron kids.
At what stage, even if they're deep in the process, you just take.
I don't understand and not how much people like cooking decide when you not touch them. But it's really not, but it doesn't feel like it feels.
All right, so let's see a bit of Gemara. I think Dr. Berlowitz is waiting for us to open the Gemara already, right? You're like, come on, man, open the Gemara. Let's go. So let's see the Gemara in Shabbat Daf Mem Hey. Let's have a look. Ba minei Reish Lakish me Rabbi Yochanan. Right? On the first page of unit 41. Did you get you got a copy? 41? All right. Baruch Hashem. All right. You got it? Somehow that's in the middle. So, בא מיני ריש לקיש מרבי יוחנן. So ריש לקיש אסר. רבי יוחנן חיטין שזרעם בקרקע וביצים שתחת תרנגולת מהו. Now, presumably there's a difference between these two things. These two things are not exactly the same. ביצים שתחת תרנגולת are eggs that you can theoretically swallow raw. Sorry, Gaxi. But you choose to allow them to become chickens, right? You leave them under the chicken to hatch, right? Could you change your mind on Shabbat? Like you can.
Because people eat raw egg.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
Yeah, you wake up and you're supposed to be chazan for your nephew's bar mitzvah, and you feel all hoarse.
For your boxing tournament.
Also no.
Your life is so boring. Or right, so could you change your mind on Shabbat and use it and swallow the egg? Or the more interesting case is where you've already put the seeds, you've planted the seeds, and then you want to eat some seeds. Can you take the seeds?
sounds like you're. If I'm
Right.
hungry enough, then maybe I will.
Right. Right. Now, still, these seem why do these seem a bit different to me? I guess because the seeds went through a whole process until they became edible, and then I replanted them. Right.
Right, but since you replanted them, they haven't changed. They're just, the places changed, but they haven't changed.
Right. I'm saying as opposed to the eggs, what do I do with the eggs? I never moved them. Right.
Well, you didn't do anything with the chicken.
Yeah, chicken did a lot, but I'm not sure what came first, chicken or the egg. But
It's unit 42.
that's right. But the very good. The eggs were laid and then were just left, right? So I've never done anything to bring them to the human world, right? On the other hand, I've never done anything to extract them of the human world, right? All right, so interesting. All right, Beseder. So what is the question? The Gemara explains what is the question. Kileit leila Rabbi Shimon Muktze heicha delo dachiyei beyadayim. Heicha dachiyei beyadayim idle Muktze odil maloshna. So There's a big machloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. We're not going to go into that whole big machloket, but Rabbi Yehuda generally says that everything is muktze. Everything you didn't intend on using before Shabbat, that you didn't have the intention of using before Shabbat, is muktze. Pretty much. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. That's how Rabbi Yehuda goes. The question is, does Rabbi Shimon agree that there would be the muktze also in these things that you've basically returned to nature, right? So here it can go back to. You can go back to the ashpa question, right, Yaakov? Right. You could say this is like, I threw them in the garbage. It's different because in the garbage, I don't intend on taking them back, right? We said if I threw them in the garbage before Shabbat, so they become muktze, right? But there, I don't have the intention of taking them back. Here, I intend on these things returning just in different forms. So it's not this.
Don't take it back, the egg becomes a chicken.
Right, so I don't take it back. Correct, I agree. Right? You don't take the egg, you'll never take the egg back. You've returned it to nature and say, you know what, you're just not ready yet for me. Right? So Rabbi Shimon say, okay, so you've rejected this egg from human use. Maybe it will be muktze or not. So basically the only kind of Rabbi Shimon only holds that anything edible is not muktze unless it's the olive oil inside that's burning now.
Anything edible by a.
So what is edible is a good question that we're going to get to later on in the unit. But basically anything edible, which means that even if I planted the seeds, that's the important thing. I planted the seeds, I want to eat some seeds on Shabbos, I can take them out of the ground. I might have some trouble moving the dirt, but I'll figure that out. So, all those things are not muktze. Let's go to the second half of the Gemara. What kind of gorot v'tzimukim are we talking about? And why is this computer being very annoying?
Stage, the middle stage. On the roof for the middle stage.
Right, what is the middle stage? Define the middle stage.
They're not edible.
At the point where they're not edible. So like this. Here's the question. The question is, when we say gorot v'tzimukim, do we mean I had dates, right? Now I'm going to put the dates out to dry up, right? I'm drying my dates. There is a middle stage in which they become inedible. Okay, but at that point they're inedible anyway. So of course the muktze. No?
Well, if they're inedible during Ben Hashmashos,
Oh, so you're saying if they're inedible during Ben Hashmashos, so the rest of Shabbat they'll remain muktze even if they become edible 6 hours later.
but if they for some reason became edible earlier, whether you knew about it or not, I think they're still okay.
Well, again, if they became edible before Shabbat.
Yeah, during that period they became the banishment that they became edible, somebody clued you in, or you just happened to be walking by and realize, these are actually edible.
They actually are. And they must have been ready already, Ben Hashmashot, so they must be okay. Let's see. Midi achrina lo. והתניא היה אוכל בתאנים והותיר ואילן לגג לעשות מהן גורגות, בענבים והותיר ואילן לגג לעשות מהן צימוקין, לא יאכל עד שיזמין. Which sounds like if I put the grapes up there, so I'm not allowed to eat them on Shabbat unless I just say unless I say on Friday, I see they're about to be ready or whatever, or you stipulate before Shabbat, since they're still edible, I will eat them on Shabbat. Meaning it's not this isn't a date and grape thing. All right. Mani ilem Rabbi Yehuda umahi chador dochi be'adayim idle mukteh dochi be'adayim l'kol sheken. So Rabbi Yehuda, of course, doesn't need this. Doesn't need such a specific braita because Rabbi Yehuda has a much more broad prohibitions. El alav Rabbi Shimon hi leolam Rabbi Yehuda ואוכל הצטריך עלי סגר החמינה כיוון דקאכיל ואז היא לא ליבה הזמנה כמה שמנה כיוון שאינה לגג אסור חייסחי לדעתה יהיו מיני. So בעצם it's not Rabbi Shimon, it's Rabbi Yehuda, and we think since these are grapes that have already reached the human world, they were in my kitchen, we were eating them, and they took what was left and put them on the roof, maybe Rabbi Yehuda would think that in that case there's no Muktze. Kamash Malan, that even so, they'd be Muktze. All right. But according to Rabbi Shimon,
Sure.
they shouldn't be Muktze. At what stage are they Muktze? Why? Only the stage of inedibility. So when I say Gorod v'tzimukim bilvad, I'm kind of saying that tongue in cheek. Meaning Gorod v'tzimukim that are not edible. Right? Now again, what Glenn said is true, right? Inedible at bin shmashot, right? Beseder. So it seems that whatever is edible is not Muktze. Whatever is edible bin shmashot is not Muktze, right? Let's see the story in the Yerushalmi. There's an important point there. Rabbi Amar Rabbi Shimon Brei. Rabbi Shimon, there's a different Rabbi Shimon. How do I know it's a different Rabbi Shimon? There's Rabbi Shimon of Muktze, right? Who's the Rabbi Shimon of Muktze? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? And who's this? Rabbi Shimon Bar Rebbe. So Bar Rebbe is Rebbe's son, not Yochai's son. Now he says, go to where I was drying my dates and bring a bunch. Amale v'ino asur mishum muktzeh, we're on the muktzeh. Amale adeinat lazo, you're still with that, with your nourishkeit. What's wrong with you? Eincha asur mishum muktzeh l'tanim v'anavim bilvad. Okay, what do we mean? Amal bishmol bar sisretay mipnei shen masrichot bintayim. So I'll just explain what this means. Hold on. Mipnei shen masrichot bintayim. What does that mean? What does the word bintayim mean here?
Sounds like it's what you were describing, the middle stage.
Huh?
Wait.
In between.
So why does it say bintayim? It should say masrichot. Meaning b'sha'ashem masrichot. No? At the point at which they are masriach, they should be asur. No?
In time until they're finished. Doesn't work.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about figs that are figs, dates? What are you saying? The what? Yeah, I mixed them, but whatever. I'm sure.
Wait, Grura is dates.
What?
Grura is dates.
I was confused. Gulgot are made out of what? Who's getting mixed up?
Tainim it says.
Gulgot are from Tanim?
In the Rashi, that's what he said.
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
So we came up from grapes.
What?
So we came from grapes.
So we came from grapes, yeah. That much I know.
Yeah, because here he says bring the Grura, and Narish guy. It's only for Tainim.
Right. So what's he saying? Exactly. So what's he saying? He's saying the Gulgot are ready. So what's Asur? The Tanim, which Tanim? The one that are Masrichot? If they're Masrich, of course they're in Muktze. What are you going to do with them?
Oh, they're still Tainim, they're not Grura yet.
So the initial stage, if I set them aside,
The initial stage when they go bad before they get good.
once they've gone bad, you see the problem.
They've gone bad.
The problem is
Yeah.
this. The problem is this. If we're talking about something that really is inedible, so it's inedible. So of course it's Muktze. Now you'll say if it's inedible ben shmashot, b'selam shana. If it's inedible ben shmashot, so of course it's Muktze. No chora, right? And if it's edible, so it should be fine. So why is the Gemara saying such a strange lashon? So the Chazon Ish, I'll just say Baal Peh because we're out of time. Chazon Ish says like this. He says there are 5 stages. The first stage, you have a tena. Yeah, a good healthy fig, right? Good. Now, you put it aside to dry, right? And it's still edible. Not quite as good, it's still edible. At that point, it won't be Muktze either. But still the same edibility it was before. Fine. Then goes bad. Then you can't eat it. Then it's inedible. Then becomes inedible. At that point, it's Muktze because it's not food. There's the final stage where it's a gulgeret. But between these two, there's another stage. And then we have 2 criteria. that meet together to create another Isur. It's something that I set aside, that in itself isn't enough, because we don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, right? I set it aside. This is where it reminded me of Muktze Mechat Chosron Kis, right? I set it aside and I have a kpeda to not touch it, and it stopped being edible. So it left the human's world at that point. Since I set it aside and it completely stopped being useful for humans, it will only stop being muktze when it's fully edible, when it's the way people intend on making it. So even when it becomes edible again, it'll still be muktze. It'll be like something that, I don't know, something from nature that could be used but wasn't prepared for use.
When it becomes edible, but it's no longer like something you sell or something. It's no longer.
No, not yet, you mean, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet a grogeret.
Right, it's not yet a grogeret, but it is.
But it is that.
Right. So Choni says that's that middle point, right?
That's Masrichim.
This is the Masrichim Bintayim.
That's Masrichim Bintayim, the fourth level.
The combination, yes. Because there is a stage, the stage before that, that's why it's called Bintayim. The stage before that reaches Sirachon. Mimele will be Asur until the end. Have a look at the tour. You'll see the wording in the tour is very precise.
Okay, is edible. Edible, but not a grogeret.
So the interesting stages, I guess, are stage 2 and stage 4.
Right,
I
exactly.
think stage 2, which is exactly what Rabbi Yehuda in our Gemara said, is Muktze.
Right,
Rabbi Shimon will not accept that.
correct.
Even though I set it aside because it's still edible.
That's right.
But stage 4, once it's coming out of the
Right.
process.
Have a look at the tour. Kai Maran Rabbi Shimon, דלית למוקצה לבגרות וצימוקים שאלם לגג ליבשן, והן מסריחות קודם שהתייבשו, דכיוון שיודע שיסריחו, ודאי יסיח דעתו מהם.
Stage 2.
Why?
Therefore, already from now.
Right, so the question is, does that mean יודע שיסריחו is already stage 2, right?
No, four.
Skip over to the Chazon Ish, end of the first line in the Chazon Ish, or the second line of the Chazon Ish, bottom of the page. Shmuel Ayri, לאחר שכבר התייבשו, it's a mistake, התייבשו וחזיין לאכילה. דרך בני אדם להמתין, נגמר יבשותו ועיקר תיקונו. השמיעין שמואל שאף אגב שכבר חזיין מערב שבת, אפילו אחי אסירי אפילו לרבי שמעון, דסוך למסר דעתי מיני. Right, stage 4. In other words, if you were just Mesiach Da'atcha Mimeno, if it's something that you wouldn't want to choose to use on Shabbat, that's not enough of a criteria to turn to Muktze. I need it to be inedible. I need it to become something that's not prepared for human consumption at all. And then, Hesech Hadat, my choice of setting it aside, makes it remain muktze until it's properly fully edible and the way I want it. So, all right, we're going to do a short chazara on this point next week, I think.